Dear students, today I am going to start new chapter, The 100 Dresses 1 from your English textbook, First Flight. So, in this lesson, The 100 Dresses 1 is about a girl named Wanda who claims to have 100 dresses. Her classmates make fun of her because what she claims is in contradiction to the fact that she was always seen wearing the same dress. Her classmates found her name to be funny. It was because everyone had easier names than Wanda Petronovsky. Her name was different because she was a Polish immigrant who had come to an American town with her family. She was poor and did not have many friends. She was quiet and was always seen sitting in the corner of the classroom. The truth about the 100 dresses unveiled when she submitted her 100 drawing in a drawing contest. They were the same 100 dresses she used to talk about. All of them were immensely very beautiful. So now students, today we are going to study the chapter The 100 Dresses Part 1. I explain the chapter. Please read carefully. Today Monday, Wanda Petronovsky was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Usually, Wanda sat in the seat next to the last seat in the last row in room number 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat. The corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. Wanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all, and nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of a smile, but that was all. So students, now scuffling of feet means noisy dragging sound, movement of the feet on the ground. The story revolves around a girl named Wanda Petronovsky and her classmates Peggy and Madeline, who made fun of her. किसका मजाक उड़ाते थे? वंडा का. The plot of the story opens up on Monday. The day is Monday. Even Peggy and Madeline did not notice that Wanda was not present on that day. These were the girls who began all the teasing. Wanda generally used to sit in the corner of the classroom where the not so academically brilliant and loud guys sat. मतलब वो उस जगह बैठती जहाँ होशियार बच्चे नहीं बैठा करते थे. It was that part of the classroom which was the dirtiest, but Wanda was not like those boys. She was silent to the extent that nobody had ever seen her laugh. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in that seat. किसी को ये पता नहीं था कि exactly why Wanda sat in that seat. Unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights. Boggins Heights उस जगह का नाम है जहाँ वो रहती थी, and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Wanda Petronovsky. Once she sat in the corner of the room. The time when they thought about Wanda was outside of the school hours, at noontime when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3 or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the school yard. Then sometimes they waited for Wanda to have fun with them. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in that seat unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Wanda Petronovsky. Since Wanda was nothing like those boys, no one ever understood why she sat there. There were only guesses that it is because she came from Boggins Heights and her shoes were usually dirty with all mud. यानी उसके पैर मिट्टी में गंदे हो जाते थे, शायद वो वहाँ इसलिए बैठती थी. पीपल हार्डली नोटिस हर इन द क्लासरूम. शी was silent and alone all that time. It was only before or after school hours when groups of kids used to wait for her to mock her that they thought of her. Sunny used to wait even at the cost of getting late for the school. The next day, Tuesday, दूसरे दिन क्या था? Tuesday था. Wanda was not in school. Wanda स्कूल में नहीं थी either, and nobody noticed her absence again. और दोबारा से किसी ने उसकी absence को notice भी नहीं किया. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat down front of other children, who got good marks and who didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Wanda wasn't there. Peggy was the most popular girl in the school. She was pretty, very खूबसूरत थी वो. She had many pretty clothes. उसके पास अच्छे अच्छे कपड़े थे, and her hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absence was because Wanda had made them late to school. They had waited for Wanda to have some fun with her, and she just hadn't come. They often waited for Wanda Petronovsky to have fun with her. So now, student, in this paragraph, the fact that Wanda was not present on Tuesday as well got unnoticed. यानी किसी ने उसको notice नहीं किया. But it was on Wednesday when Maddie and Peggy noticed her absence. It was also then when they waited before school to make fun of her, but instead ended up getting late because she didn't show up. Peggy was the most famous girl who wore good and tidy clothes. She sat with the toppers of the class. No one ever got curious about why Wanda was no longer coming to school. All they cared was they couldn't make fun of her. Wanda Petronovsky, most of the children in room 13 didn't have names like that. They had names easy to say. यानी Wanda का जो नाम था वो थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड था और सभी बच्चों के नाम जो थे बोलने में काफ़ी इजी थे, लाइक थॉमस, स्मिथ, एलन. देयर वॉज वन बॉय नेम्ड Bounce Willie Bounce, and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petronovsky was. Wanda was a Polish girl, had immigrated to America. Her fellow classmates thought that Wanda Petronovsky was a strange name because they had simpler and easier American names except the guy named Willie Bounce, which they thought sounded funny but still lesser than Petronovsky. They found her name to be long and unfamiliar. This shows that those children didn't understand diversity, and whatever they did was done out of thoughtlessness. Wanda didn't have any friends. Wanda का कोई friend नहीं था. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress and didn't hang right. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. यानी उस पर कभी भी अच्छे से आयरन भी नहीं किया जाता था. She didn't have any friends. उसके कोई friend नहीं थे, but a lot of girls talked to her. Sometimes they surrounded her in the schoolyard as they stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the warm hard ground. यहाँ पर didn't hang rightly का means did not fit properly. Hopscotch is a name in which children hop into a oval square marked on the ground. Wanda was usually seen wearing a faded blue dress that did not fit for her properly. Though clean, it used to look unironed daily. This shows that Wanda belonged to a poor family who could not afford to see too many dresses. Ironically, a lot of people talked to her, but she didn't have any friend because all of them talked to her in order to make fun of her. यानी सब उससे क्यों बातें करते थे? उसका मजाक उड़ाने के लिए. From her tale about 100 dresses to her unfamiliar name, they found it all amusing. When she used to watch little girls play in the ground, it was at the time when the students surrounded her to mock her. सभी बच्चे उसके आसपास खड़े हो जाते थे, उसको मोक करते थे, उसका मजाक उड़ाते थे. Wanda Peggy. Wanda Peggy would say in the most courteous manner as though she were talking to Miss Mason. Wanda, she would say, giving one of her friends a nudge. Tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet? यानी तुम्हारी अलमारी में, तुम्हारे वार्डरोब में कितने ड्रेसेस हैं? 100 Wanda would say. Wanda क्या कहती है कि 100. 100 exclaimed all the little girls incredulously, and the little ones would stop playing hopscotch and listen. Yeah, 100 all lined up, said Wanda. Then her thin lips drew together in silence. What are they like? All silk, I bet, said Peggy. Yeah, all silk, all colors. कि सभी सिल्के हैं और सभी कलर्स में हैं. Velvet too. Yeah, velvet too. 100 dresses. Wanda would repeat stolidly, all lined up in my closet. Then they would let her go, and then before she would gone very fast, they could not help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter. Nudge a gentle puss, incredulously, showing unwillingness to believe. Courteous means polite and respectful. Stolidly means calm, dependable, and showing little emotion and animation. And shrieks means screams. With no intention of hurting her, Peggy used to ask her number of dresses Wanda has in a very polite and respectful tone. They made fun of because they couldn't understand why she made up the story about 100 dresses. They did all this while being ignorant of fact that it could hurt her. No one would believe her when she said she possessed 100 dresses, all lined up in her closet, as the other girls screamed in astonishment and excitement. The astonishment and amusement with wonderful manner. The little girl would stop playing in order to see what was going on. Wanda would affirm their queries that she had dresses made of velvet and silk too. Sadly, after she left, they all used to laugh at her. 100 dresses. 100 dresses. Obviously, the only dress Wanda had was the blue one she wore every day. But क्या था कि it was hard to believe that Wanda said, because the only dress she was seen wearing was the blue one that was faded daily. So why did she say she had 100? तो वो क्यों कह रही है कि उसके पास 100 dresses है? What a story, क्या कहानी है? Why did she say 800 dresses? What a story. How many shoes did you have? Say you had. फिर क्या वो पूछते हैं उसको, तुम्हारे पास कितने shoes हैं? 60 pairs. She replied, she had 60 pairs all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this all alike. Oh no, every pair is different. All colors, all lined up. Peggy, who had thought up this game and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. Finally, Wanda would move up the street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitching her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had, finishing the walk to school alone. Peggy was not really cruel, लेकिन जो पैगी थी वो बहुत क्रूएल नहीं थी. She protected small children from bullies. वो छोटे छोटे बच्चों को बुलीज, बड़े बच्चों की बुलीज से बचाती थी. And she cried for hours if she saw an animal mistreated. और वो बहुत, अगर कोई कोई किसी एनिमल को मिसट्रीट करता था तो उसको बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आता था. If anybody had said to her, "Don't you think that a cruel way to treat Wanda?" she would have been very surprised. Cruel? Why did the girl say she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that was a lie. Why did she want to lie? And she wasn't just an ordinary person. Else why did she have a name like that? Anyway, they never made her cry. As for Maddie, this business of asking Wanda every day how many dresses and how many hats you have, and how many this and that she had, was bothering her. Maddie was poor herself. She usually wore somebody's hand-me-down clothes, यानी किसी के दिए हुए कपड़े पहनती थी. Thank goodness she didn't live up on Boggins Height or have a funny name. सोचती है कि अच्छा मैं Boggins Height में नहीं रहती हूँ और मेरा funny name नहीं है. Sometimes when Peggy was asking Wanda those questions in that mocking, polite voice, Maddie felt embarrassed and studied the marbles in the palm of her hand, rolling them around and saying nothing herself. Not that she felt sorry for Wanda. Exactly. She would never have paid any attention to Wanda if Peggy hadn't invented the dresses game. But suppose Peggy and all the others started on her next. She wasn't as poor as Wanda, perhaps, but she was poor. Of course, she would have more sense than to say she had 100 dresses. Still, she would not like for them to begin on her. She wished Peggy would stop teasing Wanda Petronaski. यानी वो क्या विश करती थी कि जो पैगी है, she wished Peggy would stop, कि पैगी जो है वो वंडा को चिढ़ाना बंद कर दे. Today, even though they had been late to school, Maddie was glad she had not had to make fun of Wanda. मैगी को अच्छा लग रहा था कि आज वंडा का मजाक उड़ाने के लिए कोई भी नहीं है. Maggie didn't want to tease Wanda. She worked her arithmetic problems absent-mindedly. 8 times 8, let's see. She wished she had the nerve to write Peggy a note, because she knew she never would have the courage to speak right out to Peggy to say, "Hey pal, let's stop asking Wanda how many dresses she has." कि तुम अब वंडा से पूछना बंद कर दो कि तुम्हारे पास कितनी ड्रेसेस हैं. When she finished her arithmetic and did start a note to Peggy, suddenly she paused and shuddered. She pictured herself in the schoolyard, a new target for Peggy and the girls. Peggy might ask her where she got the dress that she had on, and Maddie would have to say it was one of Peggy old one that Maddie mother had tried to disguise with. New timing, so no one in the room 13 would recognize it. If only Peggy would decide of her own accord to stop having fun with Wanda. On well, Maddie ran and her hand through her short blonde hair as though to push the uncomfortable thoughts away. What difference did it make? Slowly, Maddie tore into bits and note she had started. She was Peggy's best friend, and Peggy was the best liked girl in the whole room. Peggy could not possibly do anything that was really wrong, she thought. While writing the note to Peggy, Maddie shook at the imagination of her being a new target for Peggy and the girls. She afraid that they would ask where she got that dress from, which was actually Peggy's. Maddie's mother got it transformed with new laces and ribbons so that none of her classmates could identify it. If only Peggy would decide of her own accord to stop having fun with Gwenda. Oh me, Maddie ran her hand through her short blonde hair as though to push the uncomfortable thought away. What difference did it make? Slowly, Maddie tore into bits the note she had started. She was Peggy's best friend, and Peggy was the best liked girl in the whole room. Peggy could not possibly do anything that was really wrong, she thought. She wished Peggy stopped having fun with Wanda on her. Suddenly, the ran her hand through her hair as gesture to drive away all those thoughts. As for Wanda, thinking about Wanda and her 100 dresses all lined up in the closet, Maddie began to wonder who was going to win the drawing and coloring contest. कि कौन जीतने जा रहा है? For girls, this contest consisted of designing dresses, and for boys, of designing motor boats. Probably Peggy would win the girls' medal. Peggy drew better than anyone else in the room. At least that's what everybody thought. She would copy a picture in a magazine or some film stars had so that you could almost tell who it was. Oh, Maddie was sure Peggy would win. Well, tomorrow the teacher was going to announce the winners. Then they would know. The next day it was drizzling. दूसरे दिन drizzling था ना, धीरे धीरे बारिश हो रही थी. Maddie and Peggy hurried to school under Peggy's umbrella. Naturally, on that day like this, they didn't wait for Wanda. Wanda Petanasky का वो दिन इंतजार नहीं करना चाहते थे. The street that far away under the railroad tracks and up the hill led to Boggin's side. Anyway, they weren't talking chance on being late today because today was very important. आज रिजल्ट आने वाला था किसका? ड्राइंग कंपटीशन का. Do you think Miss Mason will announce the winners today? asked Peggy. Oh, I hope so. The minute we get it, said Maddie. Of course you will win, Peg. Hope so, said Peggy eagerly. The minute they entered the classrooms, they stopped short and gasped. There were drawings all over the room, on every edge and windowsills, drizzling colors and brilliant, lavish designs, all drawn on great sheets of wrapping paper. There must have been 100 of them, all lined up. These must be the drawing for the contest. They were. Everybody stopped and whistled on murmured admiringly. सब खुश हैं, कोई सीटी बजा रहा है, कोई आपस में धीरे धीरे बात कर रहा है, सब एक्साइटेड हैं कि आज क्या होने वाला है. As soon as the class had assembled, सीधे सी क्लास assemble होती है.